Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi amma ba'd. The topic that I've been given today is a topic that comes in the form of a question, and that is, why should we follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam? Some people may say this question is a basic and fundamental question, the answer of which is known by everybody. And I agree. It is a basic and it's a fundamental question. It's from the fundamentals of the religion and the basis of the religion. It's from the usul of Al-Azlaam to follow the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. But the reality is that not everyone understands the importance of following the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and not everyone has bought into the concept. We have the people from our ummah who choose to follow the madhahib unconditionally and indiscriminately. And although I don't see any problem with blind following those four imams, one of those four imams, in something that a person doesn't have the ability to understand himself, so he chooses one of those four scholars to blindly follow him in that issue. Although I see that as being permissible, what we don't see as being permissible is blindly following someone other than the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam when what the Prophet did or said, or what he legislated or sanctioned by Allah's ability sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is in conflict to what that person is doing, that imam, no matter who he is, no matter who he is. So we have that issue. We have another issue with Muslims concerning why should we follow the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are some people who are of the opinion that Islam is a modern religion, and no doubt about it, Islam is not against modernity, and we encourage our shabab and everybody in our community to be of the people who are trying to be advanced. Islam doesn't want Muslims to be backwards. Every single thing that's made, this battery, everything that's made, Muslims get it from non-Muslims for the most part, and we use it. We're not the people who are inventing things. We're not the people who are foremost and uppermost in presenting to the world that which is going to benefit them. Although if you look in the Muslim world, we have the resources to do all of that with petrol, oil, with gold, diamonds, all of those issues. We have them in our lands. And yet, the smallest thing on this table, like this pen, non-Muslims are going to put it together and we're going to utilize it. So Islam is not against modernity, but it is against modernity when it's compromising the religion and it's going against the religion. Like those people who don't know, we have to follow the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the woman doesn't have a choice when it comes to hijab, for an example. She doesn't have a choice. The Muslim, he doesn't have a choice. He has to take certain positions for things and against other things. He has to follow the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. There are a lot of benefits that come as a result of that. These examples that I gave you, and there are a lot of other examples, they are things that we've been seeing for a long time. Since we've been Muslims, we know the people who are on the madhabs, and they're on the madhabs very tough and with a ta'assub, being very stringent and just tough, just focused on the madhab. We've seen that for many years. But there's a new phenomenon that we find really weird, and that is we need to talk like this, and we need to mention issues like this, because there are people who lay claim to practicing the Sunnah and being upon the Sunnah. I come from a masjid, and it's called Green Lane Masjid. It is the markaz, or the main masjid, for a group of people called Ahlul Hadith in this country. Over 45 masjids. But in many of those masjids, a lot of people are not understanding what is the meaning of following the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Being from Ahlul Hadith, it doesn't just consist of saying Ameen after Al-Fatiha, the Imam's recitation. It doesn't consist of putting your feet together only in the Salat. It doesn't consist of not going to the graveyards like some other people, Brahwis, the Obandis, other people may go to the graveyard. It's more than that. When they asked Imam Ahmed, who are al-Hadith, he said, Ahl-al-Hadith, hum alladhina ya'maluna bil-Hadith. They are the ones who practice the Hadith. So I've seen with my own eyes how the masajid of Ahlul-Hadith, there's a lot of culture going on in the masajid of Ahlul-Hadith. And I'm not saying this to put anyone down. I'm hoping that the younger brothers who are here and you're proud to be from Ahlul Hadith, that you will go back with the message of we have to get our elders and we have to get our community caught up to speed in terms of following the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because it's important, as we're going to mention. Some people hold on and lay claim to a Salafiyah, and Ahlul Hadith and a Salafiyah are two synonyms that mean the same thing. Following the Quran and the Sunnah the way those companions followed and understood the Quran and Sunnah, radiyallahu anhum. Why do we have to follow the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam? There are people who lay claim to a Salafiyah, but if the sheikh that they follow, or 2 or 3 sheikhs that they follow, were to say something in conflict to the Quran and the Sunnah, in conflict to what the Prophet did, the minhaj of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have some people who are going to make the Nabi's position sallallahu alaihi wasallam secondary. And we ask Allah tabarak wa ta'ala to save us from all of those problems, because no one is perfect. And one of the things we're going to come to, inshallah, in rounding this all up, is that particular point. A principle that the Salaf used to say that I want to depart from this majlis, inshallah, without sharing it with you. I don't want to depart from this, and I want to leave this place without sharing that principle with you. So there are many reasons why we need to follow the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. The first one is that we all know that there are many wajibat in al-Islam. Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to ask us about many wajibat. Wajibat as it relates to His rights over us, and wajibat, things that are obligatory as it relates to the creation's rights over us. Many wajibat. Following the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the second awjab from the wajibat. It's the second most important wajib thing in al-Islam. And you can even say that is part of the first. It's part of the first. And every other wajib from the wajibat of al-Islam, when it comes to the ibadat, the forms of worship, you can't get away from the importance of following the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. So the most important thing that we have to do is we have to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. As the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed his companion Mu'adh ibn Jabal, may Allah be pleased with him, when he sent him to Yemen, he told him to make sure when you give da'wah to these people in Yemen, make sure you call them to La ilaha illallah. Make that the first thing that you call them to. That's the first wajib on Bani Adam. That they have to worship Allah with oneness and with ikhlas. And after worshiping Allah with oneness and ikhlas, and part of that is to do it in the way that the Prophet brought it, sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. If we were to look at the book of Allah and we were to look at many of the statements of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam, we will find that a person is not a true Muslim, he's not a real mu'min, if he doesn't embrace this concept and he doesn't take it on board. He's not a real Muslim. Everybody here, without any exception, from the men and the women, Arabs, non-Arabs, everybody here, we're making mistakes. No one here is sinless. The only sinless person, the only person who's ma'soom is the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When it comes to relaying the message, he doesn't make any mistakes. Everybody else is making mistakes. It's one thing to make mistakes and to make tawbah to Allah Azza wa Jalla, but it's another thing altogether for a person to exist as a Muslim and he doesn't know that he doesn't have the right to say, I'm not going to take this, and I'm not going to take that, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take that, from those things that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam clearly made them obligations in the religion. So this, following the Nabi, is from the awjab al-wajibat, from the most important wajib affairs in the religion of Al-Islam, following the Nabi. You don't follow him, you're not going to worship Allah correctly. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam, in a number of authentic hadith, he mentioned, and he swore by Allah, وَالَّذِي نَفْسُ مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ لَا يَسْمَعُ بِي أَحَدٌ مِّنْ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ لَا يَهُودِيٌّ وَلَا نَصْرَانِيٌّ ثُمَّ يَمُوتُ وَلَمْ يُؤْمِنْ بِي إِلَّا كَانَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ النَّارِ. I swear by the one who the soul of Muhammad is in his hands, Allah Azza wa Jal. There is no one from this ummah, whether he is a Jew or Christian, from this ummah. The Nabi said they were from this ummah. The ummah of the people who he gave da'wah to. No one from this ummah, Jew, Christian, who hears about me and then he dies without believing in me, except that he's going to be from the occupants and the companions of the hellfire. You have to follow the Nabi. If you don't, Jew, Christian, anybody else, the recompense for that, the reward for that is the knot of Jahannam. He swore, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Any hadith that comes with different narrations, but this one, he swore by Allah Ta'ala, similar to the first one. وَالَّذِي نَفْسُ مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ لَا يُؤْمِنُ أَحَدُكُمْ حَتَّى أَكُونَ أَحَبَّ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ وَالِدِهِ وَوَلِدِهِ وَالنَّاسِ أَجْمَعِينَ. I swear by the one who, again, Muhammad's soul is in. None of you truly believes until I, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, become more beloved to him than his father, his mother, and all of the people. His father, his mother, his children, and all of the people. Again, indication, if an individual does not accept and follow the Nabi, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his iman is deficient. He may not even have iman. As for the ayat of the Quran, there are many in this regard, many, that Allah Ta'ala has illustrated that the one who doesn't take the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and follow him, that's the way of the hypocrites, the people of hypocrisy. May Allah protect us from an-nifaq. He said in the Quran concerning this issue, in describing the condition and the reality of those hypocrites and people who are like them, you say one thing and you do another thing, profess one thing outwardly, but inwardly there's some other things that are going on. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالُوا إِلَى مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ وَإِلَى الرَّسُولِ رَأَيْتَ الْمُنَافِقِينَ يَصُدُّونَ عَنْكَ الصُّدُودَ. If it is said to them, come to what Allah revealed and come to the messenger, let him be the judge for you, let him be the guiding post for you, let him be the guiding light for you, let him be the criterion for you. If it is said to them, come and let this happen, come to Allah, what Allah revealed to his messenger, you'll find the hypocrites, they will make every effort to close off the way and to close the door from listening to that particular invitation. So from the benefit from these ayat and other ayat that Allah swore by, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ, Allah swore in the Quran by himself in only 2 ayats. This is one of them. And anytime Allah swears by something in the Quran is important. When he swears by the Asr time, the Duha time, when he swears by these different things in the Quran from his creation, as he swears by what he wants to swear by, he only swore by himself twice in the Quran. And in this issue, he swore by himself saying, negating the faith by your Lord. They don't believe. They're not real, true believers until they cause you to judge in their affairs, Ya Muhammad. And all of those things that are coming up in their lives, in their existence, they cause you to judge in those issues. And then they don't have any problems in their hearts, in their chests, concerning what you decided and what you judged. So from the importance of following the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that a person is not a real Muslim if he doesn't do it. He's a fake Muslim. He's a Muslim who his iman is not complete. If he is a Muslim, his iman is not complete. And it's possible that he may not even be a Muslim. As we mentioned, this is the way of the people of disbelief. Why do we have to follow the Nabi as opposed to following Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, Al-Imam Al-Shafi, Al-Imam Malik, Al-Imam Ahmed? Why do we have to follow the Nabi indiscriminately, without any questions, whether you understand, you don't understand, it's with your culture, it's against your culture? Why do we have to follow him? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the only individual who As I mentioned earlier, he's mistakeless. He's divinely protected by Allah, ma'soom. That has a meaning to it. Now is not the time to get into all of those details, but when it comes to relaying the message, every scholar that ever lived, that's living now, that's going to live in the future, every human being, he's going to get it right and he's going to get it wrong. The biggest scholars of this ummah are the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At the top of the list, Abu Bakr and Umar. Abu Bakr and Umar, as individuals by themselves, they get it right more times than they get it wrong. May Allah be pleased with them. But the books that we read, the books that scholars have written, they clearly show the book of Allah at the top of the list. From those books, show Abu Bakr and Umar are individuals who, they're human beings and they got certain things wrong here and there, although they get it right more than they get it wrong. The only one who is ma'soom is the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, ayat, Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. Allah will divinely protect you from the people. He's ma'soom. Allah told him in the Quran sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Inna kafaynaka al-mustahzi'in. We are enough for you concerning those people who ridicule and they make istihza. Allah Ta'ala is kafin bi abdi. Allah is enough for his slave Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah decreed and Allah saw fit that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was and is the only individual. There's no one else parallel, no one, except that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stands alone in this issue. So if that's the case, it's not permissible, especially after a person has embraced Islam, he opened his eyes and his intellect, and he appreciates and he has love for the Sunnah. Once you smell the fragrance of the Sunnah, don't be of the people who go backwards, and then you start to take human beings, no matter who they are, and you start to make those people the guiding light for you that no questions can be asked. Never, never, never. We can't go backwards in that kind of a way. If the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered the people to follow Abu Bakr and Umar and to follow Uthman and Ali, he ordered them to follow them. And the fact that he said it goes to show that his words, he's the one who told us to do that. So as a result of that, in those words, there's going to be some benefit and some wisdom in that. So when those companions and the other scholars of Al-Azlaam, may Allah be pleased with all of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the scholar, when the companion, when they are doing what has been, when they're correct in their positions, that's when we follow those companions. As individuals, any individual can make a mistake. And this is not me trying to put the companions down. I'm ready to meet Allah with what I'm saying right now. Don't misconstrue my words. No human being that you can possibly think of after the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is ma'soom except the Nabi of Al-Islam. He's the only one. And I say to you, brothers, and I say this with passion, not being like arrogant and rough and tough. Don't allow the wool to get pulled over your eyes like that. You have a child, your child grows and he's drinking the pure, unadulterated milk of his mother. You're not going to give your child some milk that's, going to be problematic, manufactured somewhere for him, compromising his health. In your religion, don't allow your intellect to be stolen, hijacked, taken over by someone who you love this individual so much that you just go against what the religion is saying. We've seen that this is something that is taking place with quite a few of the people today. May Allah protect us from that particular fitnah, big fitnah. It's not just with people on the madahib, it's not just with people who are they're aqlaniyun, just using their intellect. This is now with people respecting ulama. Is from the usul of al-Islam. A person who doesn't take the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam as being the guiding light, the signpost, the example to be followed, the one who doesn't do that, something's wrong with his religion. He may be a kafir, maybe a munafiq, but his iman is not complete. Similar to that, a person who's against the scholars of Al-Islam, his Islam is suspect. So we're not here to say anything like the scholars are bad. We're not saying that. What we're saying is there's no scholar except that he gets it right and he gets it wrong. And this phenomenon that we have where some of us, we hear the scholars, the scholars, the scholars. And it's just a phrase that people are saying, many of us. Part of the scholars is that the real ulama of Al-Islam, they don't tolerate people blindly following them in anything and everything that they say. The real scholars don't do that. And if a person doesn't have enough courage to say, look, this thing, with all due respect, I don't embrace that position of the sheikh. That is part of Salafiyah. So don't be of the people who are afraid to take positions because you want to be, for an example, in the good books with Fulan or Alan. From the reasons why we have to follow the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the most complete person to follow. The Nabi of Al-Islam. These examples that you guys, you brothers, sisters are going to be hearing in these next 2 days, inshallah. How was the Nabi with the Shabab? How was the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam with the ignorant people? People who didn't know. How was the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam and how did he deal with the people who fell into sins? How did he deal with the elderly? The Nabi and his enemies, how did he deal with them? He was the perfect example. This is why we have to follow him. From the benefits, he is the ultimate perfect example. If he gave a khutbah and he got on the minbar, the people in the audience, like here, are on varying degrees of understanding and realities. The Nabi, if he got on the minbar, everybody understood. Everybody understood what he was trying to say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everybody. Some understood more than others. Some, their understanding was deeper. Not only were the people who were present understood, but when those people took that message to other people, sometimes the one who wasn't present understood it better than the ones who are present. That is because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of the characteristics that are positive, that can be embodied in a human being, he had them. He had them. He was intelligent, he was articulate, he was brave, he was hardworking, he was sincere, he was forbearing, everything you can think of. From the superlatives and the descriptions that a human being will say, this is a noble individual. The Nabi had all of that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of that. No one else is like that from this ummah. Some people came close to that mark. People who are from the Siddiqeen, people from the Shuhada, they came close to that. But the Nabi alone, he's the most complete individual to be followed, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. You have in Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam a perfect example. A perfect example. For the person who, he wants to meet Allah, he expects to meet Allah, and he believes in the last day, and he remembers Allah a lot. So the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, in terms of following someone, his companions, may Allah be pleased with them. Just as the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was divinely chosen by Allah to be al-Mustafa al-Mukhtar, Allah chose him divinely. He also divinely chose his companions. So I hope no one understands or misunderstands again in this point that we're taken away from the position of the companions. We're not taken away from the position of the companions. We're just highlighting the position of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It was the Nabi who used to say to Abu Bakr and Umar, this thing that you did right here, it wasn't the correct way. This thing that you did over here, it wasn't the correct way. Those ayats that came down in the Quran that were revealed about Abu Bakr and Umar, about something that they did here and there, where the community benefited and learned from those particular issues. The Nabi, on the other hand, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, he, as I mentioned, was and is the perfect example. No one else is perfect. No one else is perfect. When in the famous incident, Umar radiallahu anhu was reading from those pages of the Torah, and the Nabi saw him and he asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "I got this paper or some of these parchments from my neighbor who's from the Yahud, and I'm just reading it." The Nabi asked him, "Are you becoming weak now after being strong? Are you becoming weak now in doubt? Why read the parchment of the Yahud? Everything we have in the religion, the Quran and the Sunnah, is more than enough for you." And then he made the point that we want to make here. He says, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, "Law kana akhi Musa hayyan wa taraktumuni wa taba'tumuhu la dalaltum dalalan ba'ida." If my brother Musa were to come, he were living now, and you people left me and you followed him, you will go astray. Musa is the Kalim of Allah. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went for the Isra wa Mi'raj, and just as a side note, this is the blessed month of Rajab. Rajab is one of the 4 sacred months. We should be cognizant of that, aware of that. The celebration of Al-Isra wa Mi'raj on the 27th night of this month is not from the religion of Al-Azlaam. When the Nabi made that journey from Bayt al-Maqdis to the 7 heavens, and he received the salat directly from Allah Azza wa Jal, Musa was not far from that place, from the Sidratul Muntaha, showing his virtues. He's one of the 5 major messengers. And yet, the Nabi said, if he came back and you people chose to follow him instead of me, and you left me, you're going to go astray. Musa is from the greatest prophets in Islam. You take that Quran, you're not going to read that Quran and read the story of any Nabi where his story is in detail more than Musa. His story is mentioned more than any other Nabi in the Quran. And yet, if we followed him, we will be in trouble. Because in this case, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, he is the most complete and perfect individual to be followed. Isa, when he comes back, he's going to follow the Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's going to be under the legislation and the Sharia that the Prophet brought sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Now, if that's the case with prophets and messengers, Isa has been up in the sky in the heavens in a way that Allah knows its reality. A miracle, mu'jiza. He was born without a father. He gave life to the dead. All of those things about Isa, who we don't have to tell all of the fadail of Isa. If Musa and Isa came back and we chose to follow their legislation in their way, as opposed to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we would have gone astray. What do you think is the case of people who come nowhere near to those 2 individuals and personalities? Ulama, we respect the scholars of Al-Islam, especially the scholars of the Sunnah. But the scholars of Al-Islam don't come close to the prophets and the messengers, those people with all of the virtues that are connected to them. So the point here is, following the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, as I mentioned, is from the awjab al-wajibat that Allah Ta'ala has made incumbent upon everyone. The last point that we want to make, and there are many points, is a principle that I want to leave with you, brothers, and it's a principle that hits at the heart of blindly following people and opinions when you have the ability to discern and to distinguish. If you don't have the ability, then that's a different thing. But if you choose to blindly follow and you're forced to blindly follow, remain silent and don't talk and don't give your opinion and don't debate and don't argue. Whatever the issue is, you're going to blindly follow about should you do raf'ul yadayn or not do raf'ul yadayn. You're going to blindly follow about pointing your finger and moving it or not pointing your finger or not pointing it and moving it. Any position in the deen that you blindly follow someone because you don't have the ability, do it and be quiet. Don't talk and don't debate. Because the blind follower is the one who's taking someone else's opinion and he doesn't know where his dalil is. He doesn't know. He just trusts that person and he takes his position because he respects his knowledge, he respects his level of diyana, his taqwa, his wara. No, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Just don't talk. One of the principles, Khwani, and we end with this, is something that the Salaf used to say about people, and that is, they used to say, as long as a person is living, as long as a person is living, you can never be sure that that person is saved from fitnah. Everybody here, no one here knows what he's going to die on. May Allah cause us to die on al-Islam. So the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make the dua, and he used to swear by Allah. He used to say in his sajda, Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. He knew he's the Sayyid of Bani Adam. He knew he's the first one to go into the Jannah. He knew that he's going to get the Shafa'at al-Kubra. He knew. But he's teaching people like us, following the Nabi, you're going to be okay. From the benefits of following the Nabi, you'll go to Jannah, inshallah. You'll be saved from a lot of these mashakal. We will be saved from a lot of these problems. So the point here is, as long as a person is living, no matter who the sheikh is, and again, this is not bringing down any scholar or even the institution of ulama. This is trying to get everybody to be aware of the danger of connecting yourselves to the personalities. No, we have to connect ourselves to principles first and foremost, and then we'll understand the reality of the personalities. Don't make your religion, whatever he does, that's what I'm going to do. Whatever he says, that's what I'm going to say. Wherever he goes, that's where I'm going to go. There were people who were companions of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they asked Al-Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak, Amir al-Mu'minin fil Hadith. They asked him, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, Al-Imam Ahmed used to consider him to be the 5th Khalifa. They asked Abdullah ibn Mubarak, is he better than the companions? Is he better than any of the companions? Al-Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak said that the dust that went up the nostril of the companion, just the dust is better than Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. And that's because no matter what you do, no matter what a person does, he can never reach the level of a companion. No matter what you do in this dunya, it's not possible. You can't reach it. You spend all of the Mount Uhud in gold, it wouldn't equal half of a mudd of what one of them did. And yet, some of those people who were with the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they saw the moon split. They saw him open up his finger and water came out of his fingers. They saw with their own eyes, mu'jizat, the causes of a person's iman and yaqeen to be strengthened. And yet, some of those people apostated. Some of them apostated on that Isra wa Mi'raj issue when he came back. And they began to tell the news that he said he went to Bayt al-Maqdis and he went to the 7 heavens and came back the same night. Some of the people left Islam. Some of the people left Islam. Some came back and some didn't come back. Some came back and some didn't come back. Those who came back, they're companions of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and radiyallahu anhum ajma'een. They're in Jannah. Allah is pleased with them and we're pleased to try to be on their way. But some apostated, and once you apostate and you die on apostasy, that's it. Allah asked a question in the Quran, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا الرَّسُولُ أَفَإِن مَّاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ وَمَن يَنقَلَبْ عَلَىٰ عَقِبَيْهِ فَلَن يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ شَيْئًا. Muhammad is just a messenger. Not just a messenger. Muhammad is a messenger. He's but a messenger. He's not Allah. He's but a messenger. If he were to die or if he were to be killed, would any of you apostate and turn back on your heels? Anyone who apostates, you don't hurt Allah one bit. You don't harm Allah. So when the Nabi died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those companions, they didn't apostate. They didn't turn on their heels. Allah called them min al-mu'minin rijal. Sadaqu ma ahadullah alayhi. They were real men and they stuck to the contract that they made with Allah. Some of them went all the way and they died in jihad and they made their efforts, and the others, they were waiting. And Allah said, وَمَا بَدِّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. They didn't change anything. So the point here is, is that if those people were companions at one time and then they became apostates after that, that goes to show anybody can leave this religion. And if he were to leave the religion, now do you leave the religion? Your sheikh today, he's on the Sunnah today, tomorrow he's on innovation. You're going to follow him because he's your sheikh. Today, your sheikh is given good positions and praiseworthy positions that are noble and so forth and so on. He changes tomorrow for whatever reason. You know, a human being can become senile. A human being can become majnoon. A human being, he can become an individual who wants something from anything can change. The hearts of all of the slaves, all of them, are between the two fingers of Ar-Rahman. He changes them how he wants to change them. So the point here is, the only individual who we follow unconditionally, without any questions, without any hesitation, you understand, you don't understand, is the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. He's the only one. He's the only one. And in following him, there's life in following him. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu istajibu lillahi wa rasul idha da'akum lima yuhyikum. Answer the call and the invitation of Allah and His Messenger when they call you to that which will give you life. The Nabi told the people sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, kullu ummati yadkhuluna al-jannata illa man aba. Qalu man ya'ba ya Rasulullah? قال صلى الله عليه وسلم من أطاعني دخل الجنة ومن عصاني فقد أبى. All of my ummah will go into the Jannah except those who refuse. They said, who are those who refuse, Ya Rasulullah? He said, the ones who listen to me, you obey me, you go to Jannah. And those people who disobey me, those who refuse, those people who don't listen, then these are the ones who won't go into the Jannah. So following the Nabi and the need to follow the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam is a basic and it's a fundamental question, but it is an issue that we need to be reminded of, and we need to be diligent in comprehending it and understanding it and being upon it. So with that, I'm going to stop.
Got a question here. How would you explain the 2 rak'ah after wudu? Bilal radiallahu anhu did as the Prophet ﷺ never did this, but he allowed it. But this is not from the Sunnah, as the Prophet ﷺ never did it. He just highlighted it as a good act.
The Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam consists of 3 things. If any one of these things happens, then that thing is considered to be from his Sunnah. The thing that he said that you should do, he said with his tongue to do it. He said sallallahu alayhi wasallam, rakat al-fajr khayru min ad-dunya ma fiha. The 2 rakats that you do before fajr, the 2 sunnah prayers from the nawafil, better than the dunya and what is in the dunya. So he said it with his tongue, so it's the sunnah. He also sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to pray 2 rakat before fajr, and then after praying those 2 rakats in his home, he would lie in his right side and wait for the time for the salah. So it was what he said and what he did. Thirdly, the sunnah is what was done in his presence, and he gave his tacit approval. Something happened, he saw it, he heard about it, it came to his attention, and he didn't say anything about it, or he smiled at it, because it was not permissible, being who he was, as I mentioned, the most complete, being ma'asum, divinely sent by Allah, the only one who we have to follow unconditionally. Because of that condition, it wasn't permissible for something to happen in his presence, except that if it was wrong, it was wajib. He had to say, don't do this, don't do that, because he's the Nabi, he's the Rasul. If something happened and he allowed it, it meant that it's okay. So he sallallahu alayhi wasallam prayed Salatul Fajr in the Jama'at, and then he was leaving the masjid, and there was a man praying by himself. The Nabi waited until the man finished. He said, has Fajr prayer been made 4 rakat? Why did you pray with us and now you're praying 2 more? The man said, Ya Rasulullah, I missed the 2 sunnahs of Fajr, the 2. And the Nabi just left. So he allowed that man to do it. So if we find a hadith like Bilal making the wudu, every time he wake up in the night, he makes the wudu and then makes 2 rakats, that is a sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he gave his tacit approval.
Some people follow the Aqidah of the Salaf. However, their manhaj is dealing with others and their manners go against the way of the Salaf. Are such people still Salafis?
The Imam of Ahl Sunnah, one of the Imams, and Imam Ahmed, used to tell the people, taking people out of the Sunnah is serious. إخراج الرجل من السنة شديد. Taking someone and expelling him and throwing him off of the Sunnah is a big thing. Just like expelling someone out of Islam, excommunicating and pronouncing takfir upon him. These things are only done when certain conditions are present and certain preventive measures, mawani', are absent. If the conditions are absent and those mawani' are present, it's a different issue. So no one is perfect. No one is perfect. Person who makes mistakes, no doubt, akhlaq, good akhlaq is from as-Salafiyya, no doubt. From what the Prophet brought, what he called to, what the people of the past were upon. Can't take people off of the Sunnah and out of Salafiyya because of bad akhlaq, just like that. All of Bani Adam are going to make mistakes, and everyone is not the same. Allah's Prophet told the people, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Allah created Adam, he took from all of the different colors of the earth. He took the red, the yellow, the black, the brown, the white, dirt and sand, all of that. And he said, and that's why Adam's children come out different. Some of them easy to get along with, some of them are difficult to get along with, and some of them are in between. So the fact that this one, he has anger management issues, this one is rough and tough, this one is ignorant, all of those things are just part of the experience of being a human being. So you don't exclude people from Salafiyya because they made a mistake in minhaj here or there, or they made a mistake in their akhlaq here or there. These are not the things that would disqualify a person from being Salafi.
What is the difference between coming to a conference for 2 days to seek knowledge and going on khuruj with Jamaat Tabligh? Jazakallah khair.
May Allah guide us and guide our brothers from Jamaat Tabligh. Coming to the conference for 2 days, you have those companions of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam who left their homes and they went to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they stayed with him for a number of days. In one case, a group of them were youngsters, shababa, and the Nabi saw them. And after staying with him for 20 days, 20, he realized and he saw that they were missing their families. So he had rahmah on those people and he told them, gave them instructions, go back to your people, teach them what you learned with me. And he told them, pray the way you see me pray. The way you saw me praying in these days, go back. So people going with the Nabi, coming to the Nabi, learning from the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is established in the Sunnah. When he was going to perform the Hajj, those companions who lived around Medina, those people who heard that he was about to perform Hajj, they went to be there so that they can learn what to do and they can get the barakah of making Hajj with him. Abdullah or Az-Zubair ibn Awam, his wife was pregnant coming back from Hajj. He wanted to stay with the Nabi, but his wife was having a baby. The Nabi said, go back and take care of your family when she was having the baby in the road. The point is, they all had their hirs to learn from him and they came to him and they learned from him. That's from Islam. That's from the Sunnah. We have a hadith telling us, من سلك مسلكا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله به له طريقا إلى الجنة. That's from Islam. To go out in search of knowledge for 2 days, 3 days, 1 day, whether it's a conference at a university, whatever it happens to be. He goes to a masjid for knowledge. There's nothing. We have what has been sanctioned in the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. As for khuruj of Jamaat Tabligh, what they do in calling it khuruj, all of that is not sanctioned. It's not supported. The things that they're doing, they're not learning the religion. They're not sticking to the Sunnah and the issues that they have made for themselves in terms of the dua at the door, the amir that they choose for themselves, not shortening their prayer, combining their prayer, the 6 points that they come up with, the meaning of those 6 points, not sanctioned ignorance. So the contrast and the difference between the two, the first one is from the Sunnah. It's from the Awjab al-Wajibat, going out to get knowledge from conferences and things like that. That's from what is obligatory upon you when you have the ability to do it, because getting knowledge is an obligation upon you. As for this thing that Jamaat al-Tabligh is doing, this is something that is wajib upon you to abandon, because anyone who innovates and introduces something in this religion that's not from it, it will be rejected. So there's a big difference between the two.
Okay, we've got another question. What is the authentic way of praying with the salah?
The authentic way of praying witr is to get a good book that explains to you comprehensively and in an easy way how the Prophet ﷺ prayed with the prayer. And there are some differences between how the witr is prayed depending upon the amount of rak'at that you're going to pray. So now is not the time where we can get into that issue. You can pray the witr 1 rak'at, 3 rak'at, 5, 7, 9, 11 rak'at. And each one of those ways, if you pray 3, there are 2 ways of doing it. If you pray 5, there are 2 ways of doing it, and so forth and so on. So what you have to do is, you have to get a book that teaches you how to perform the witr prayer. I don't know in English a book that tells you how to make witr, but I think I can safely assume on the Google someone from the Sunnah has shown you how to do witr. Pretty sure about that. For the people who speak Arabic, read Arabic, and the Sheikh Muhammad Ibn Umar Bazmoul, he has a really nice book about the Salat al-Tatawwa, how to do them and the benefits of them and so forth and so on. Plus there are other books that have been written by themselves just about how just to perform witr. So the person has to take the time out to learn how to do it, and by doing it, you'll learn and get the fiqh and the comprehension of it, because the more you do something, the more you'll understand it.
Next question. Why is it haram to listen to music?
Scholars of Al-Azlaam gave different reasons why music is haram. One of the reasons is because music plants the seed of hypocrisy in the heart of a person. It's one of the strongest weapons of a shaitan. I think most cultures and many people, they like music. It's just something that can affect the soul of most people. Even people who don't listen to music, if you happen to hear a song that you heard when you were young, it can bring you back to that time in your life, remind you of your mother, remind you of your father, remind you of your days of being a youngster. So you'll find some songs where they're saying things that are against the religion, against what we believe in. Like, for an example, heaven must be missing an angel because you're here with me right now. But you know that heaven can't be missing an angel. Sulaiman, he knew that the hudhud bird wasn't around. How could the Allah lose out on one of the angels? You should be there. People who are singing say things like, you know, you're my God. They tell the lady sings that about her Habib, and the man says that about the lady. He wants to worship her. He loves her more than anything else. Things like that. Then we look at the hip hop culture right now. There's been a trial and a tribulation for us. Whether you like it or you don't like it, everyone is affected by that culture. The misogynistic way of talking bad about women, the language, the curse words. Aisha said about the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he wasn't a person who used bad language. So if you're listening to what they're saying, the profanity, it's against the religion. It's something that you should avoid. The arrogance that the hip-hop artist is talking about himself. He has so much money, he has a printing press in his own house, and things like that. The Muslim is an individual who's going to try to be not seen. He's not allowed to wear clothes of shuhra. He doesn't want to be known. He's the guy that wears the pink thobe. He has a pink car, so that people can say, yeah, that guy. No, Islam encourages us to be humble, not to be like that. So music generally is saying things that go against what the religion is telling us is okay and what the religion is saying is not okay, then music is calling to that. So some of the people who purchase with the miserable price, they sell Allah's sign for a miserable price. Faddal ya akhi.
Okay, another question. I have committed great sins, lied in the past. I still think about my past evils very often. Please advise.
Well, first of all, Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, قُلْ يَا إِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. Tell my servants, those of them who went overboard and they made a lot of sins, don't despair from the rahmah of Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal will forgive every sin. And Allah لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء. Allah will not forgive that you make shirk with him, but he'll forgive anything and everything other than a shirk. The Nabi told the people sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you people didn't sin, lo annakum lam tudhnibu la adhhab Allahu bikum wa la ata biqawmin yudhnibun thumma yastaghfirun thumma yaghfiru Allahu lahum. If you people didn't make sins, Allah will get rid of you. And he will bring a group of people who do sin, and then they'll ask Allah to forgive them, and then Allah will forgive them. If the people didn't make sins, how would we know the reality, or how would we know some of the reality of some of the names of Allah? Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Ghafur, Al-Tawwab, Al-Afu. How would we know the reality of that? That Allah Azza wa Jalla is a Tawwab. How would we know that? And He is Al-Kareem. We wouldn't know that. We come to know those things that He is Al-Latif, because people sin and make mistakes. So if Ibn Adam came Yawmul Qiyamah, if he came Yawmul Qiyamah and he filled up the whole world with sins all the way to the sky, but he didn't make shirk with Allah, Allah will forgive him. He's under the Mashi'ah of Allah. If he sought the Tawbah of Allah, Allah will forgive him if he made Tawbah with sincerity. And if he didn't make Tawbah and he died on those sins, he's under the Mashi'ah of Allah. Insha ghafara lahu wa insha adhaba. That doesn't mean that sins are easy and just do what you want because Allah is Ghafur Rahim. No, doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. It just means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave that man who killed 100 people. And from them was the Abid. He killed 100 people. And Allah forgave him. I don't think anybody here killed 100 people. I think some people killed 3, some people killed 4, but nobody killed 100 people, and Allah forgave him. The lady was a prostitute. Not she made zina one time. That was her job. Her job. Multiple times during the day, during the course of the week and the month. And she went down in the well and gave the dog some water, and Allah forgave her for that. So we just have to remember, At-Taibu min al-dhanbi kaman la dhanba lahu. The one who makes tawbah from the sin is like the one who doesn't make sin. Lastly, concerning this issue, we all should be like this person who's writing this letter or this question right here, and not be of the people who are looking at other people like, look what he did, and you look at yourself as if you're okay. Because everybody is making sins, everybody. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us all for our dhunub and our ma'asi, for the jealousy, the ghiba, for the namima, for the hasad, for the haqq, for the bughd, the adawa, for the kadhib, for the tadlis, for the iftira, for all of the things that we are making. He's Ghafur Rahim.
Okay. On a similar note then, for a wedding, can we play our cultural music? The wedding is for women only, Jazakallah khair.
Music is not permissible for women. Music is not permissible for children. Music not permissible for the wedding. Music is not permissible in any shape, form, or fashion. What's permissible is for the women to hit the duff at the wedding, and it's only for the women. Only for the women to hit the duff at the wedding. As for any other form of music, then it's one of the signs that Yawmul Qiyamah is going to be established, as the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam said that doing the time close to the hour, some people will come and they would try to make halal musical instruments and wearing silk and committing fornication. So if women are together, they can't listen to music. They can just play the duff amongst themselves, and the duff is only for the women.
Okay. Another question, kind of related. Is it good to listen to nasheeds?
There is an ayat in the Quran, Ikhwani, that Allah Ta'ala mentioned, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. And the Nabi, the Rasul, said, "Oh my Lord, my people have abandoned the Quran. They have abandoned it." The ayat has many meanings to it. One of the meanings of the ayat is for a person to prefer something else over the Quran, to choose to listen to something else other than the Quran. The Nabi said in an authentic hadith, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Man arada an ya'lama ma lahu inda Allahi falyanzur ma lillahi indahu." Anyone who wants to know his position with Allah, then let him look at Allah's position with him. So if an individual chooses, he has a choice, listening to the Quran or Anasheed, listening to the Quran or music. No doubt Anasheed is better than the music. The Anasheed that doesn't have the music is better than the music. So the Anasheed, I see it as being permissible, provided it doesn't take the place of the Quran, provided it doesn't find a place in the heart of the person where he chooses Anasheed over the Quran. If he listens to the Quran, he doesn't want to listen, but the Anasheed makes him feel good. So if we want to teach our children some of the teachings of Islam, the arkan of Islam, the arkan of al-Iman, the names of the companions, the names of the wives of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going on a trip and we are making these Anasheed. It's better than what we used to do when we were young. You go on a trip and we used to say 100 bottles of beer on the wall, 100 bottles of beer. If one of those bottles happened to fall, you got 99 bottles of beer on the wall, and you go just to pass up the time. No, let the kids say some Anasheed. It's better than that. But the Anasheed should not take the place of the Quran. Shouldn't have music. It shouldn't be something now where it's just something that we used it as the religious people, practicing people, they listen to Anasheed. But they don't read the Quran, doesn't get knowledge, not a student of knowledge. But I don't see it as being something that's impermissible.
Another question then. Give me the proof that the fact that you have to move your finger while saying the Shahada.
I think this person is talking about the Salat. I don't know, because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to give the khutbah, and when he used to make the Shahada, he would point his finger, and there were different times he would point his finger. I think they're talking about the Salat. I don't have to give you a proof that you have to point your finger or move your finger when you're pointing, because I don't believe that that's correct myself. I believe when you're making the Salat and the Tashahhud, that you should just point your finger and keep your finger straight without moving it. That's my position. As for the people who believe that you should move it and move it vigorously, then they use a hadith from the companion Wa'il ibn Hujr radiyallahu anhu, in which he described in that hadith that that's what the Nabi did sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those scholars who take that opinion is based on that hadith. And the Nabi said about it sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the pointing of the finger, lahiya ashaddu ala shaytani min al-hadid. When you point that finger in the tashahhud, it is more stern, more tough, more rough on the shaitan than iron. So he makes a lot of problems for us during our lives. So this is an issue that should be studied. It's not an issue that the person of the Sunnah, a person who appreciates and he loves the aroma of the Sunnah, there are some Sunnahs that are really big and some Sunnahs that are not so big. They are not the same level. Everything is not the same level in Al-Azlaam. But we don't minimize any aspect of the religion. We don't want to have ghulu over there, And we don't want to have ghulu over there. The people who make small things big and the people who make big things small. No. The Prophet told the people, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, la yahqiranna ahadukum shay'an min al-ma'ruf. Don't look at anything that's correct as being small. Don't look at anything. That thing may get you over the hump yawm al-qiyamah with Allah Azza wa Jal. So learn about this issue and you take the position that you're most comfortable with based upon knowledge. So I believe you just point the finger like this, with your finger like that, with a circle, and you just leave it straight. And Allah is A'la and A'lam.
Okay, there's a lot of talk about going against your leaders. What do you think about this issue?
From the usul of As-Salafiyah is not to revolt against the Muslim ruler and the Muslim leader. Not to revolt against him with your tongue. Not to revolt against him with your sword. But to render unto them the obedience that they deserve and to listen and to obey them and what they command us to do, except in the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, this is a big issue. It's a big issue. And that's why it should be given its due consideration. And I encourage you, brothers, to avoid those people who are argumentative and they love to debate in this country. They love to make takfir about this leader and that leader and this leader because they don't judge by what Allah revealed when we ourselves have similar problems. People making mistakes left, right, and center. So going against the leader is a major indiscretion and a major sin, and it is from the usul of the religion not to do that. But instead we have to listen to them and we have to obey them. And another issue, Ikhwani, right now, those of us who are married, you're the leader of your house. You're the imam of your house, the amir. You're in charge of your wife, your children. And your wife may not be happy with some of the things that you are doing, the way that you're doing, or some of the things that you're not doing. You're not going to accept from her to try to change the thing any way she wants to change it. She has to change it and address it in the way that is legislated by the religion, in the religion. Similar to that, the leader of the Muslims. He's not perfect. Things that he does, the things have to be addressed and they have to be dealt with a particular way. And being here in the UK, talking about people overseas is an issue that I find from the weirdest rhetoric that we have been exposed to. But generally speaking, in the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, As-Salafiyah, this religion of Islam, doesn't allow people to make khuruj on the leader. Not with the khutbah, not with the dars, not with your kalam, not with the sword, and not by making the people agitated against him and making tahyij and agitating the people to be against the leader to make confusion.
Alhamdulillah, I think this is a question from my niece. She's asking, how old should you be for you to start praying?
And the authentic hadith is clear. How old should you be to start praying? Al-Mustafa al-Mukhtar sallallahu alayhi wa sallam al-Habib, he said, Muru abna'akum bis-salat wa hum abna'u 7 sinin wa duribuhum alayha wa hum abna' 10. Command your children to pray at the age of 7 and hit them at the age of 10. If they don't do it, then you are allowed to hit them. So technically, we should start encouraging them to pray at 7, but you don't have to wait until 7. You can start praying, especially if you see that the child has a mayul, he's leaning towards righteousness, he likes to pray. You let him pray at the age of 5, at the age of 6. You let him pray at those ages, encouraging him in preparation. Right now, we're in the month of Sha'ban, the month of Rajab. After Rajab comes Sha'ban, and then Ramadan, inshaAllah. Scholars of the past used to say that Rajab is the month that the person plants the seed in preparation. And then in Sha'ban, he starts to fast more and he puts water on the seed. And Ramadan is the month that you cultivate what you did in the previous month. So the Nabi used to pray that he used to do more fasting in Sha'ban in preparation. So why wait until the child is just 7 and we just wait? He's 7 now, let's do it. That's what the tawjihat of the Nabi was in his irshad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But you can tell the child to do it before that. And at the age of 10, if they don't pray, you have the ability and the right to hit them. But that does not mean you should always hit them. Sometimes you shouldn't hit them. Maybe you should reward them. Maybe you should talk to them. Sometimes you should put them in timeout. Sometimes you send them to bed without something. It shouldn't always be hit, technical, hit. It shouldn't be like that. It's what the child needs. So some kids, they can pray at the age of 6. There was a companion. He said, I used to go with my father and the rest of our tribe to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to meet him in Medina. And it wound up that I memorized more Quran than all of them. I memorized more than all of them. And then when we went back to where we came from, I was the imam and I led them in salah. And he was only 7 years old. And he was the imam in the salah. Then we come to the cultural masjids. The kid is 7, 8. He knows how to pray. He knows what he's doing. And the elders put him in the back. And the elders, they give him a hard time about, no, if the boy has wudu, he knows the ahkam of salah, he has discipline, then you should let him pray. Not behind the imam necessarily, but he got in, give him that position that he took. So 7 is the age technically that we've been encouraged to start telling them to pray. At 10, you have the right to hit them.
Can it be made for a website, made easy to act on the Sunnah instantly? So basically, can we somehow act on the Sunnah quickly by doing this following thing? Someone clicks on all the activities that he does and a page opens on the Sunnah that he could carry out. Also, to carry out the Sunnah that he's clicked on, he can learn through multiple choice or some other proven learning methods. Can this method be used?
Sounds like a good idea to me, but as those scholars say, al-hukmu ala shay'in far'an tasawwurihi. I can't talk about this thing until I see what it consists of and what it looks like. Just some kalam like this, it sounds okay, but I don't know. It sounds okay. I'm all for the technology and furthering the cause of education and the community and Islam.
Is it Sunnah to do the Prophet Muhammad's birthday?
The birthday of the day in which Al-Mustafa was born, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the actual day is not known. And it wasn't introduced to this ummah except after 600 years. 600 years after the hijrah of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're not going to find Al-Imam Malik, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i, Al-Imam Ahmed, rahimahumullah. You're not going to find any fatwa of them saying his birthday is halal or haram because it wasn't something that they were exposed to. This thing came centuries after those imams. And for your information, those people had ikhtilaf when was his actual date of birth. What we know, he was born in the year of the elephant. What we know, he was born on a Monday and revelation came to him on a Thursday. So he fasted on those 2 days. That's what we know. Some people, historians, said that the Nabi was born in this month, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first of Rajab, the first night of Rajab, they said he was born. Some people say he was born in Ramadan. Some people say he was born in Muharram. So Allah Azza wa Jal has not allowed us to know this. And if it was good and if it was beneficial, He would have told us about it as He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, مَا مِن شَيْءٍ يُقَرِّبُكُم مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ إِلَّا أَمَرْتُكُم بِهِ. There's nothing that will cause you people to come to the Jannah except I told you to do it. And there's nothing that will cause you to go to the Nar except that bring you closer to the Nar except that I prohibited you from it. If it was good, it was beneficial, Abu Bakr, Uthman, Ali, Ukasha, Bilal, Zayd, Aisha, Khadija, Safiya, may Allah be pleased with them, they would have preceded us to this thing. So celebrating his birthday should be avoided. It's an innovation.
Okay, are we allowed to eat McDonald's from this country?
If I told you what I really believe, people are going to get mad. I don't think they can handle my position. So, Allahu A'lam.
It says, who are the Al-Khawarij?
The Khawarij, Ikhwani, are a firqa that actually had its presence during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when a man by the name of Dhu al-Khuwaisira came to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he had a problem with the hukum that the Nabi gave, and he told him, be just, ya Muhammad, you are not just. The Nabi said to that man sallallahu alaihi wasallam, waylak, woe unto you. Woe unto you. In lam a'dil. If I'm not just, then who's going to be just? He says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, qad khibta wa khasirta. Some of the scholars said that you can make the dabt of that kalima, khibtu wa khasirtu, the Nabi. But the man, khibta wa khasirta. In lam akun a'dil. And that is connected to what we mentioned earlier. The man came and said, Ya Muhammad, be just. You wasn't just. The Nabi said, if I'm not just, woe unto you, if I'm not just, who can be just? That's another dalil and proof that he's ma'asum. That's another dalil and proof that he is perfect. That's another dalil and that's another proof that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is complete. If he can't do justice, nobody can do justice. No one. If he can't do justice, no one. That man, the Nabi told them, all right, give him the money. They wanted to kill him. Umar said, let me chop his head off. He's a kafir. He's a munafiq. Because if you grab the Nabi like that, that's a sign of kufr, hypocrisy. Disrespecting the person of the Nabi. The Prophet though, he said, no. Do you want the people to say that I killed my companions? He was weighing and judging the situation. The man left. The Nabi said there's going to come out of this man's loins a group of people. They will go in the religion and out the religion the way the arrow goes in and out of the game. So he was the father of the Khawarij. They had their presence during the time of the Nabi, that man. And then later on, they started to develop into a group during the life of Uthman ibn Affan, and they ultimately killed him. And then during the Khilaf of Ali ibn Abi Talib, they really became powerful and a force to be reckoned with. And since their door opened during the assassination of Uthman, that door has not been closed. So the Khawarij, they're a group of people, they have a number of characteristics, they are ignorant, they're young people, even if they're old, they're young in the way that they think, the crazy ideas that they have. They don't respect scholars, knowledge, ulama. Like Dhu Khuwaisira, the way he grabbed the Nabi, the way he talked to the Nabi, the way he put himself ahead of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we ask Allah Ta'ala to save us from the evil of the Khawarij and to give us the guts and the courage to repel their evil and to be clear against them, because in fighting against them, speaking against them, there is a reward. But I advise the people to do it with justice, to be fair and just. These days, if a person mentions the word jihad in the right context, he's reading Sahih al-Bukhari, he's teaching Sahih al-Bukhari, he's teaching some book, he's teaching 40 hadith of Al-Imam al-Nawawi, and the word jihad comes. The word jihad comes, and he says something about jihad. Some people say he's jihadi, takfiri, because he mentioned jihad. Just because he mentioned jihad, just mention the word jihad, takfiri. No, that's extreme. And the other extreme are the people who really believe that everything is jihad. Jihad is whatever they think and whatever they assume it is. No, we have to be balance. We have to be balanced in these issues.